Hey everyone, welcome back. So this next song, Burke, how about you introduce this one, actually?
Sure. So this song is called Pendulum. It was actually a derivation of a poem that Jim wrote. We tried to put it into song form. Uh, a lot of the words used, well, actually, all the words used in the song were actually from his poem. Um, the music style that we used was a lot different from what we would normally do. But we tried to create something that was both happy and thoughtful at the same time. So I thought it was an interesting mesh of things that normally wouldn't come together, which is like an existential thought and then sort of a happy reaction to it. So what do you think about that, Jim?
Yeah, it was actually a poem that I wrote that was really in a state of asking a philosophical question. Does life have a purpose at all? It was really a deep thought, and I kept thinking of opposites. Like pleasure and pain, faith and reason, desire and indifference, and how on each side of the spectrum of opposites, there's like almost like a pendulum, and you kind of are on one side or the other, or each pole, and it almost fluctuates in and out all the time. And even in life, we all die, and we have this kind of contradictory dualism in everything we do. We work, yet we want free time. We're always seeking something, and it's always the opposite that we seek. And I feel like this creates a sense of um, attachment to materialism and other things. So I was in this deep state. I wrote this whole poem. I really think this thought of you know trying to transcend these limits is something that drove me a lot to write poems, compose this song. Um, what is our identity? And are we awake or are we asleep? And are we awake like as we're awake, or I mean that in a deeper way, like are we fully woke? And I feel like a lot of times we live our lives. um uh, I feel like I used words like a steady state moral psychosis, where we are truly asleep, and trying to figure out what we are in this world is quite hard, and find meaning in it. We all seek religion, things that or spirituality, things that drive us. And I feel like I found a lot of this in my friends, including you, Burke.
Yeah.
And a lot of this poem was actually made from a crowdsourced contribution of many philosophers and all my close friends on Facebook, as you see his contributions. Um, so I thought it was a really fun poem, and then it was really cool to take like the first page of this and make it into like an almost uh, song-like form of ambient sound, of a pendulum of sound, of like in and out. And are you awake or are you asleep? And kind of embed the words through a text-to-speech system into music. So
Yeah. And that's why we came up with the name Pendulum to begin with, because you were kind of posing those opposites on each other, and life is sort of in that pendulum steady state, right? So that's kind of this imagery we used when we were thinking of the music as well.
yeah, it's totally. And one of the things that I think is really deep here is these opposites dampen with age, as in the closer and closer we get to the end of life, the more we're at one of these poles. Um, and I think that's quite interesting. Is like, how
That's
do we retain a childlike curiosity in their 90s? Um, how do we how do we perceive these things at older age versus young, and how do we preserve that throughout our lives? And I constantly face this in my life, where I'm not comfortable and I want to not be comfortable so I can keep learning. um, I don't want to be so rigid that I can't change.
Right, right. I
And so I
mean,
think there's always a battle here. Um, and I'm curious your thoughts, Burke, on that. Like what in your life do you feel like is stabilizing that you feel like you might need to change?
I don't think you necessarily want stability in life in the sense that you do want to be on that edge of curiosity so that you're always learning, like you said, but you want to keep certain things ordered enough where you have the ability to learn and go beyond what you think is possible, right? You have to have food and water and all and housing and those kinds of things. And if you can be lucky enough and smart enough to stabilize that, then you can go forward and try and make something of your purpose and try and find what really excites you and once you want to get up every day and do. And the thing about you saying like older age and how some of these things become more divisive at that point, like I think when you're older you start to realize what's more important, right? Like when you're young, you may not necessarily care about religion, or you may not care about school, right? But the older you get, you realize why these things like education and religion have been such a powerful impact on humans for so long. It's because they're vitally important for keeping balance in your life to both learn and to think.
Yeah, and I think we all express it differently. I think I think you constantly face this capitalist struggle of gaining power in the world, or living by the current structure, and there's a tension, and I feel like there's always a tension of aligning yourself into the world in some way, be it housing, food, at basic level, but then when you get into social constructs and communities, not everyone fits into every community, and I always hated that.
Isn't
Like
that what Reddit is for? You can find what you're looking for.
you can find online communities, but I can say that it's sometimes alienating when you're in many communities at once, and one community might not connect with another community. And I've always tried to find ways to transcend the categorical nature of communities and how they're opposed to each other. Um, for example, I play basketball with you a lot. I'm on here,
Yeah.
but I don't know if you'd hang out with like all my coworkers who are in their 50s. So,
That
so
depends. Do they like basketball?
no, probably not. So I think this is like what I mean. There's kind of like this almost structure of various people that might not all be in the same room connecting. Well, some of them would, some of them wouldn't. So I always face that challenge. Um, uh, and I feel like that's part of the tension as well here with a pendulum is like, where do you devote your attention and time and people? And I think it's a hard problem. And what is purpose? What is your purpose? I think that's an ever evolving thing. I don't think you have it every day. I think it changes over time.
Agreed. Yeah.
Maybe you have no purpose. I don't know. Like, is that
Hopefully
even a
not.
thing?
You can derive purpose from a lot of things. So even if it seems insignificant at the time, it can become vital to your self-conscious and how you treat yourself and respect yourself. So
I think I'll leave with this. I think I ended this poem kind of in optimism, like a new life awaits me, although there's like all this uncertainty and purposelessness and purposefulness might coexist together. Um, you can still trust yourself to find your meaning in life work. And I think that's sort of the conclusion is you kind of have to trust that you believe in something to achieve full wakefulness. And I think we all find that in ourselves at some point in our lives. You got to believe in something in order for you to truly be happy. and be it, spiritual things or just your mission in life of helping the world through your own experiences. I think this is I'm an optimist despite existential frustration vetted on this call.
Fair enough.
So yeah, so like, subscribe. Hopefully you guys like the song. It's a very interesting one, and excited to hear your thoughts.